Hello and welcome back to Hestia's Muse, podcast for astrological devotionals. My name is Liliana Blackstar, and I am here to bring you a spiritual devotional of self-discovery and personal growth that is in some way inspired by astrology. Join me to tune into astrological transits and the Wheel of the Year for inspiration in your greatest task in life, to know yourself. Hello again, my friends. Welcome back, or welcome to those of you who are just joining for the first time. We are going to be continuing our discussion of tarot cards and their relation to astrology. And with this week's episode, we are going to be wrapping up the Libra section. We have been discussing the minor arcana cards that are associated with the sign of Libra. So we previously did the Two of Swords and the Three of Swords, and now we are going to discuss the Four of Swords. So each of the tarot cards are in some way associated with an astrological sign, a decan, season, or a planet. The Four of Swords is associated with the third decan of Libra. So decans are subdivisions of signs. Each sign is divided into three parts: a beginning, a middle, and an end. For the sign of Libra, the first decan is subruled by the moon, the second decan is subruled by Saturn, and the third decan is subruled by Jupiter. So wait a second, what do I mean by sub-ruled? Each planet, as you know, each sign is ruled by a planet, and each decan is also ruled by a planet. So you can think of these as sub-rulers, kind of like shift managers. The entire sign of Libra is ruled by Venus, but the last 10 degrees of Libra are also sub-ruled by Jupiter. You can think of this period of Libra season to be Jupiterian in nature. Like all of Libra season is Venusian. There's a Venus influence. But the last 10 degrees of Jupiter are going to also have a Jupiter influence. So you can also interpret the Four of Swords as having a strong Jupiter influence, or you can interpret the Four of Swords to represent Jupiter in Libra. Jupiter does not have to be in Libra for this card to be relevant. It doesn't only represent Jupiter in Libra, but we want to remember that the Four of Swords is related to the third decan of Libra, so therefore it has a strong Jupiter influence to the card. So let's talk about the Four of Swords. The image on the Four of Swords in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith version, we see a solitary person laying on a bed with their hands in a prayer position on their chest. They seem to be in a safe and sacred place. A stained glass window is above them, reflecting soft light down on them from above. There are three swords hanging vertically on the wall nearby, their points pointing downward toward the resting person. And a fourth sword is hanging or tucked horizontally under the bed, with its point towards the feet of the resting person. The Four Swords might suggest that this person is a warrior or a knight of some kind. They're ready to pick up a sword and jump into action at any time. But also we must remember that the swords in tarot are the element of air. So this is likely a symbol of readiness of mind. And so for that reason, I don't always see this person as asleep. They're awake and ready to think or talk or communicate or grab that sword if they need to. but they are intentionally taking some time in silence and rest. So if the swords represent our thoughts and the actions of our mind, then this card is a great reminder that we not only need physical rest, but we need mental rest as well. So some of the key words and concepts that would be commonly associated with the Four of Swords are contemplation, faith, healing, inner peace, meditation, pause, recharging, recovery, reflection, rest, respite, retreat, renewal, solitude, trust, and quiet time. Quiet time. So the Four of Swords signifies a period of rest, recuperation, and a strategic retreat. The card depicts a temporary withdrawal from the challenges and stresses of life, and it suggests a need for a respite to recharge your physical and mental energies. This card indicates a conscious decision to take a break from the demands of daily life, or a conscious choice to take a break from a situation that has been mentally taxing. It encourages the individual to seek solace in moments of quiet contemplation, allowing the mind to find clarity and rejuvenation. The Four of Swords is a reminder that just as the warrior rests between battles, there is a time when pause is not only necessary, but beneficial for long-term well-being. The beautiful stained glass window above the resting figure suggests that there is an incoming blessing of enlightenment. Stained glass windows are representations of spiritual wisdom. This is because they are often used to depict stories and lessons through their images in churches and temples. In this way, the card represents that while you rest, you might receive the answer you've been seeking, or you might receive some kind of enlightenment, right, while you are taking this time of rest. Sometimes we are like working so hard to solve a problem or write a book or understand the meaning of something that happened to us, and we try, but we're just not quite able to get it. You have writer's block, you have just like brain fog, you're just too tired, you can't think anymore, and just things are unclear. So we try and we try, but we're not quite able to figure something out until we rest. We've all had those moments where we finally go to lay down and try to go to sleep, and that's when we have the oh shit light bulb moment, right? Or for me, it happens in the bath or the shower, because you're taking some time for rest, like showering or bathing is very restful and rejuvenating, and then all of a sudden the solution comes to you, right? In rest, we surrender and we give in to a sense of hope or faith. We're just accepting that, like, I tried but I don't understand this, or I tried but I had writer's block, and I'm just going to have to give up and hope that I can try again tomorrow. So there's an element of hope or faith in the surrender that happens when we rest. We say, there's nothing I can do about this now, so I just need to rest, and we surrender. And then suddenly when we settle into that meditation or rest or even sleep, there it is. The understanding that we were seeking suddenly just pops into our head, or it arises within us, but not until we have surrendered to rest and stillness. So this card is advising that through a period of meditation and rest and stillness, you can gain insights or healing or enlightenment in a way that you couldn't while you were not resting. And when you rest, you can emerge with a renewed sense of purpose and resilience and understanding. So let's talk for a moment about Jupiter and Jupiter's influence over the sign of Libra, and then we'll come back to talk about the Four of Swords some more. So Jupiter in astrology symbolizes expansion, abundance, and the principle of growth. Often referred to as the Great Benefic, Jupiter exudes an optimistic and generous energy. It rules over the higher mind, philosophy, and beliefs, and it encourages people to seek wisdom and a broader understanding of life. Jupiter's influence is associated with luck, opportunities, and a sense of abundance, inspiring people to reach for higher goals and embrace a more expansive view of the world. In an astrological chart, Jupiter's placement is seen as a source of enthusiasm, optimism, and a desire for meaningful experiences. It encourages a spirit of exploration, both intellectually and experientially, fostering a sense of purpose and an openness to the possibilities that life has to offer. Overall, Jupiter embodies the principle of abundance, inspiring individuals to reach for their highest aspirations and explore the boundless possibilities that the universe has to offer. So Jupiter kind of expands whatever it touches. It has this way of touching something that inspires it to grow and become bigger. So your hope becomes optimism. Your desire for understanding becomes an inspiration to get out and explore and learn and read the books and ask the questions, right? So the astrological transit of Jupiter in Libra, let's just play with that archetype for a minute here to understand the third decan of Libra. If Jupiter were in Libra, it is infusing the atmosphere with a harmonious and socially oriented energy. So I said that Jupiter is the planet of expansion and growth, and it kind of expands everything it touches. And when it meets the sign of Libra, it is emphasizing and growing the need for balance and fairness and more refined interpersonal connections. So Jupiter connecting with Libra will encourage a broadening of perspectives within relationships. We know that relationships function better if we can see the other person's point of view and we understand their perspective. It will foster a spirit of cooperation and collaboration because we know that our relationships and partnerships are more harmonious when we work together. Libra wants harmony. Jupiter wants this expanded sense of knowledge and understanding. And we get there through collaboration and cooperation and working together. So individuals may find opportunities for personal and intellectual growth through their interactions with others, as Jupiter in Libra favors diplomacy, open-mindedness, and a desire for mutual understanding. There's a potential for the enhancement of aesthetic appreciation and the pursuit of beauty, as Libra's affinity for grace and elegance is expanded by Jupiter's influence. Overall, this transit will invite people to explore the expansive and positive possibilities within their social sphere. So it's not just your intimate romantic relationships, but any time that you are interacting with others in a way that involves partnership and cooperation and working together, that's going to be a Libra type of relationship. And so Jupiter is going to promote the positive in those relationships. It's really optimistic and has a deep desire for those relationships to reach their highest potential through fairness, cooperation, and shared values. So as a sub-ruler of the third decan of Libra, we are reminded that Jupiter's benevolent energy is an important element in relationships. So even when Jupiter is in other signs, it always has some kind of influence over the sign of Jupiter, the sign of Libra, and it especially has an influence over those last 10 degrees of Libra. So no matter where Jupiter is, Jupiter can be in another sign. Like right now, Jupiter is in the sign of Taurus, but the sun is in the third decan of Libra. So the sun is having Jupiter influence it because it is in the section of Libra that is sub-ruled by Jupiter. Hope that makes sense. So Jupiter teaches the value of sharing and being generous with the people around us, and how spreading joy and laughter will make almost any social interaction more bearable, because we understand that Jupiter's energy is an important part of maintaining healthy relationships, right? Because we're understanding Libra as a sign that is somewhat influenced by Jupiter, not just Venus, but also by Jupiter. In the previous 2 episodes, I talked about how Libra is also influenced by the moon and by Saturn, because those are the rulers of the first decan and the second decan of Libra. So this is the one where we're talking about how Libra has this Jupiter influence. And therefore, relationships need some Jupiter energy in order to function at their highest potential. So being sharing, being generous, spreading joy and laughter, those are Jupiter things that benefit relationships. But also, Jupiter is the planet of truth and justice. So relationships need honesty, fairness, and justice in order to be harmonious for all people involved, right? And finally, Jupiter is a planet of faith. We will generally have more harmonious relationships with people who share our faith or have similar beliefs and ethics. And additionally, faith is related to trust. And all of our relationships need some element of trust. You cannot be at ease in a relationship or partnership if you do not have trust in the other person. So even if the other person has a different religious belief than you, if you can still establish a sense of trust with that person and a sense of good faith that they're not going to go out of their way to harm you or upset you, then that's a good start for a balanced relationship, right? So Jupiter reminds us that we need all of these things in a relationship. We need faith and trust, we need truth, honesty, fairness, and we need a sense of sharing and generosity and joy. Have all those things, then all of your relationships will be amazing, right? Again, not just your romantic relationships. Libra is about any type of cooperative relationship that involves two or more people needing to work together. So let's take it back to the Four of Swords and connect the Four of Swords with this energy of Libra and Jupiter. So looking back again at the image of the Four of Swords, you can begin to see the influence of Jupiter and Libra. The swords, again, are representative of the element of air, and Libra is the cardinal air sign. The cardinal signs represent initiations or beginnings, the start of something new. This figure is resting, meditating, and practicing self-care before going out to take the next steps of their journey. Sometimes the beginning of something is not necessarily the active state, but it is the decision to do something, right? It is the awareness. And so sometimes we have these moments of being quiet and still and listening. And that's when we become really clear about what it is we need to do next. And we make the choice. So even though this card doesn't necessarily look like the start of something new, it is that subtle internal energy of something new beginning in someone's mind. They are taking the time to listen and sort through all the many thoughts in their mind before making a choice or taking action, and then they decide. So since swords and air often represent communication, you could imagine that the three swords hanging on the wall above the resting figure are messages or ideas that have been presented by others. Libra is all about our relationships and partnerships with others, but we need to take time to actually listen to what others are saying. So there is one sword that is tucked away under the bed or hanging on the side of the bed, and we can see this as the figure's own thoughts and words, which they have put aside in order to listen and absorb what others have said. So there is a energy here of taking time to kind of digest and break down and understand the things that other people have said to you, whether it was a teaching that you received from someone, a communication, something that someone said to you. Sometimes we have to take time and chew it over, and that involves putting aside our own ideas, our own thoughts, and not necessarily answering with our words right away, but just sitting and listening and trying to figure it out. So a very wise spiritual leader in my community, Lady Belladonna Laveau, Arch High Priestess of the ATC, recently said, if you're talking, you aren't listening. You already know what you think. You have to be quiet so that you can find out what other people think. And I thought, oh, that's the Four of Swords. When she said that, I was just, had already been thinking about what this card means and what I was going to talk about with this card in my podcast and on my blog. And Bella said that, and I was like, well, there it is. There's the Four of Swords. If you're talking, you aren't listening, and you have to be quiet so that you can find out what other people are thinking. So I think that that's an excellent quote for the Four of Swords. So Jupiter expands our consciousness, and it elevates us to higher levels of understanding. Sometimes this expansion and growth is through intellectual pursuits and studies, like learning from college, learning from people of history and teachers who have studied before us. So reading books, going to libraries, going to college. These are intellectual pursuits and studies that expand and grow us and elevate us to higher levels of understanding. And that's very Jupiterian. So we know that as students, we need to listen more than we speak, and we sometimes need to sit and rest with the new concepts that we have learned so that they can sink in. But sometimes the expansion and growth of Jupiter comes through practical knowledge rather than from book study. It comes from traveling and adventure and meeting new people and talking to people. When we are exposed to people of different cultures and backgrounds and languages and ideas, we generally become more open-minded and accepting of those who are different from us. And this results in the harmony and diplomacy that Libra seeks. So I'm speaking mostly about Jupiter's desire for us to experience higher levels of understanding and elevate our consciousness, and how it sometimes happens through book learning, but sometimes it happens through practical, not like travel and interaction and just things happening around us. But both of these things kind of need us to take moments to rest and absorb it and soak it all in. So that is where you have this Four of Swords energy coming in. We can go on adventures, but we still need to sit down and process our thoughts and our memories, right? Journaling is a great example of just kind of taking some time to process your thoughts. But even then, that's a kind of active, like, way of using the mind. And so you need to even take it the next step of just sitting and letting the thoughts flow. See what happens and empty your mind and let it go. So sometimes the expansion and growth of Jupiter comes to us in spiritual or religious ways. Through meditation and prayer and spiritual practices, we can find a sense of the self opening up. We start to feel like we're bigger on the inside, right? So we find faith or a belief in something beyond our intellectual understanding. We can't really understand it on an intellectual level, but we know it, right? In this way, Jupiter's wisdom is sometimes more related to a spiritual or intuitive sense of knowing rather than the intellectual knowledge gained from books and schooling. And most often, people will describe this kind of spiritual knowing as something that came to them when they surrendered to rest. They were meditating, they were praying, they were listening, or they were even sleeping, and it came to them in a dream. And somehow they gained this sense of enlightenment in this moment of surrender and rest. So we go back to that stained glass window in the image of this card, representing the potential for this kind of spiritual enlightenment that is imparted to us by a benevolent Jupiter when we take time to rest or engage in acceptance and surrender through a spiritual or faith-based practice. So there's lots of ways we can achieve what this card is showing us. We need to rest to process our thoughts after learning something in a class or attending a college lecture. We need to take time and rest after we have gone on an adventure and we've interacted with a bunch of people and seen a lot of new things. And we also can just have these moments of enlightenment that come from the rest itself, where we learn something, not just like we learn something and we have to rest afterwards, but sometimes the learning or the knowing and understanding comes through the rest and happens upon us during the rest. So I hope that you take time to rest and that you can schedule yourself these moments of meditation or self-care and just finding a way to allow the knowledge to flow to you with trust and faith that what you see and understand is what you're meant to see and understand. So I have an affirmation that would be really good for helping you sink into these moments of rest. And you can use this affirmation to help yourself feel inspired or motivated to let go and rest. And this affirmation is: I honor the importance of rest and rejuvenation. With a calm mind, I allow myself the gift of solitude and reflection. As I take a pause, I find inner peace and clarity, allowing my mind to recharge and recover. This moment of stillness is a powerful tool for my overall well-being, and I trust that through rest, I gain the strength and resilience needed to face challenges with renewed vigor. I am in tune with the rhythm of rest and activity, creating a harmonious balance that promotes both mental and emotional wellness. I hope that you have enjoyed this week's exploration of tarot through the lens of astrology, and that you can use this to reflect upon tarot and astrology in your own personal devotional, however that looks for you. You can always find me and more about what I do at hestiasmuse.net. You can also find me on social media. I'm on Facebook as Hestia's Muse and on Instagram, hestiasmuse.astrology, and this is where I share regular astrology updates. And you can also join my Patreon. This is the best and easiest way to support the work that I do, is by joining my Patreon. You can choose $5 or $10 a month and have access to all of my astrological writings on Patreon, my weekly astrology updates, a monthly shadow work post at the dark moon is available for the $10 tier. And yeah, I'm doing fun stuff on the Patreon. I would love to see you there, and that helps support the work that I do so that I can keep on bringing you podcasts like this one. So you can find that www.patreon.com/HestiasMuse. All right. Thank you again so much. I hope you have a wonderful week. And next time I come back, we will be talking about the tarot cards associated with the sign of Scorpio. All right. See you later.